States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I will now call this meeting to order. This is the City Council Workshop Meeting on March 31st, 2026, 7 p.m. We're being broadcast live on YouTube on the City of Morgantown's page. We're calling the roll, too.
Joe Abou-Ghanem. Jody Hollinshead.
Here.
Louise Michael.
Here.
Jenny Celine.
Here.
Mark Downs.
Here.
Brian Butcher.
Here.
Danielle Trumbull.
Here.
All right. And our first item on the agenda is a council follow-up discussion and prioritization of policy review for affordable housing. You want to kick us
Thank you,
off?
Deputy Mayor. If you don't mind, I know that, and I don't think we need that, Emily. We will probably. So appreciate your time today. As we know, this is our first venture into the new workshop structure. As part of that, we have previously had some sessions related to affordable housing that would align with these discussions, including the fact that we had some public input sessions that was presented at the February Committee of the Whole. In that presentation, we talked about some near-term, short-term, long-term policy work that we would be considering, including looking at land trusts and doing some research along those lines. We did put this on the agenda as an opportunity to provide council to have another opportunity to just, if there's any additional policy dialogue that you all would like to have on items related to affordable housing that we have not covered yet, to have that free flowing of conversation to kind of wrap up this portion. There are two items today that we will ask Attorney Simonton to make some update presentations on briefly. Those are related to the ADU and the non-conforming use policy, and then certainly staff is here if there's any questions as the conversation moves on. So if it would please council, I'd turn it over to Attorney Simonton.
Thank you. So the first item is accessory dwelling units. City Council had worked on and then presented an ordinance to expand accessory dwelling unit availability within the city. Currently, the zoning code doesn't allow them outside the Wiles Hill overlay district, and City Council put together an ordinance to allow ADUs in residential districts with owner-occupied homes with some relaxation on setbacks and height restrictions from other accessory structures. That was forwarded to the Planning Commission for comprehensive plan concurrence review, and in the meantime, as we noted at the council meeting in May, the state did pass its pending legislation requiring municipalities to allow ADUs. So that was Senate Bill 659, passed March 6th, becomes effective June 4th, and looks like with an effective compliance date of January 1, 2027. What it does in brief is require that cities allow an accessory dwelling unit on every lot or parcel that has a single family dwelling, and it defines both of those terms in the bill. An accessory dwelling unit is a self-contained and independently accessed living unit, and it has cooking, sleeping, and sanitation facilities. So does need a separate exterior access, does need to be an independent living unit. It can be a manufactured home. The last round of amendments to the bill included, added several provisions with respect to manufactured homes. Manufactured home in the bill means the same as under federal law. It has to be on a permanent foundation, but otherwise any manufactured home is permitted as an ADU. So there are a couple limitations within the definition. The single family dwelling must be larger than the ADU. Single family dwelling, there is a definition in the bill. It's one you all be familiar with. It does not appear to require someone to be living there. So it looks like if there's a structure there, an ADU can be constructed. All of the accessory dwelling units must be permitted by right, and that's defined in this law as well. So they have to be permitted without a public hearing. They have to be permitted without any kind of variance or conditional use permit review, and no discretionary zoning review other than the site plan review that's permitted by the law and review for compliance with what they call regulatory requirements in this bill, and those are basically generally applicable laws. Building code, fire code, your other zoning laws that apply to everything can still apply.
So when you say permitted by right, that's just in residential districts, though?
In every
Is it
district.
every district?
Any lot or parcel in the city that's occupied by a single-family dwelling. So
Oh, okay.
if you have a commercial building on a lot, the city does not have to allow an ADU there. And I should have said before I started on this spiel, stop me anytime. We can discuss the provisions. I tried to kind of condense them in a way that makes sense to me, but that may not make sense to you.
What we were working on had a couple of extra regulation, like the primary structure must be owner occupied, and now that's all out the window. So I think our job, as we update our code to comply, is to make sure residents know that this is something we have to do, because I think a lot of people are gonna be upset in certain zones, certain areas with someone putting a trailer behind their home and renting it out now.
Setbacks are still in place?
So there cannot be more restrictive setbacks for the accessory dwelling unit than there are for the single-family dwelling that's on the lot or parcel. But those same setbacks can apply. So all the existing setbacks that apply to a single-family dwelling can be applied to accessory dwelling units. That's one of the things that we, along with the Planning Commission and whomever, will have to work on in updating the code is defining how those apply. Currently, there are different setbacks for accessory structures, but you could have the same setbacks for ADUs as you do for the principal dwelling.
As long as you're treating it the same as the principal dwelling? Because sometimes, like a shed or something is treated a little bit differently.
Yes, those can generally be closer to the lot lines. And in the council draft before, where these were kind of limited to targeted areas where they seem to fit with the zoning, that another provision was relaxing those setbacks and relaxing the height requirements to promote accessory dwelling units in appropriate areas to provide more affordable housing.
And also that it fit within the look of the primary unit would be
Yeah, and
useful.
I will run through the list, but you cannot have design requirements for these. You can't have,
Oh,
outside of a.
Wouldn't want any design requirements.
So with setbacks, could we say by right if it meets setbacks of the primary structure, but maybe conditional, like case by case, a closer to property line kind of situation, or?
Yes, you could do that.
Or not.
Well, I'm just, in ours, we had agreed to like relax a little bit. So maybe on a case by case basis, that could be assessed.
With limitations?
Yeah,
Well,
and
maybe-
people will still have access to variance relief. Yeah, that's something people can always ask for. So if they say, I have a small lot where I cannot meet the setback requirements due to topography, they can ask the Board of Zoning Appeals for that.
Yeah, I guess that's what I meant with like conditional.
Well, you could also, you could build in a conditional use permit process as well for this, I think. So, must be permitted by right. The ADUs allowed by this bill, they can be detached, attached or internal, which presumably means the same as attached, but not just building onto the house. There are size limitations on the detached ADUs, though. It's the lesser of 1,000 square feet or 75% of the gross floor area for the single-family dwelling that's on the lot.
Is it limited to one ADU by right?
That's right.
Great.
And not with an apartment. It has to be a single-family home?
Yes, and so these are
The primary
the
structure.
mandatory requirements. Of course, the city
Yeah.
has leeway to be less restrictive. But yes, so a single-family dwelling is a building with one or more rooms designed for residential living purposes by one household that is detached from any other dwelling unit. So those are where it's allowed. There are not definitions of lot or parcel in this bill. We have those definitions in our zoning code. Those are actually two different terms.
Wow.
So
It's a big
There's-
change for a lot of places, the whole state.
it is a big change, yeah. It's going to be a change for all municipalities in the state. These regulations live outside Chapter 8A, which regulates zoning, although they mostly impact zoning laws you have. But so they apply to all municipalities, zoning or not. You have to permit these, and these are the ways in which you can do it. So there's a list of things you can't restrict. You cannot require additional parking or fees in lieu of parking to construct an ADU. Can't require matching exterior design, things like roof pitch, architectural features, except in a historical district where there is district-wide regulation, those can apply to the ADUs. You can't require a family, marital, or employment relationship between the occupants of the single-family dwelling or the ADU. You cannot require development impact fees over $250. There's a specific authority to require up to a $250 application fee, basically in addition to any of your building permit fees. The statute uses the term building fees, but I think that's what we'd be familiar with here. You can't require improvements to streets or sidewalks as a condition of building, but you can require they be repaired if they're damaged by construction. And you cannot have more restrictive maximum building heights, minimum setbacks, minimum lot sizes, maximum lot coverages, or minimum building frontage than are applied to the single-family dwelling. You can be less restrictive, but not more. And you cannot require a restrictive covenant. This does not apply to private restrictive covenants. So I think the upshot there is there can be, HOAs can still have declarations that would not allow something like this, and those can be enforced privately, but not by the city. There's a slightly shorter list of things that you can do. So this law says that it does not prevent municipalities from regulating short-term rentals. Keep in mind that the ways in which municipalities can regulate short-term rentals are limited by Code Section 8-1-5A. So they have to be regulated as other rentals. But that's in there. I mentioned requiring the application review fee up to $250, and you can require what they call a will serve letter from water and sewer utilities, or approval letter from the health department if those don't exist.
Say that part again?
It can require a will serve letter for these ADUs, so make sure they can get water and sewer service. So
That'd be good.
they can be required to have water and sewer service, but they cannot be required to have separate water and sewer connections from the single-family dwelling. They're allowed to share. I mentioned the effective date, just to reiterate. I think the changes to our codes need to be in place by January. The effective date of the bill is June 4, but it says that any contrary regulation will be invalid as of January 1, 2027. That'll give us some time to go through the Planning Commission process and bring updates to council by ordinance. I mentioned up front the current restrictions, so the minimum changes that will be needed to the code are changes to our regulations in the accessory structures for residential districts, and changes to definitions to add this definition of accessory dwelling units, and then changes to the land use table to permit these, probably with a supplemental regulation that limits them to being permitted on a lot or parcel with single-family dwelling. That's kind of the basics, but certainly there are other options as well. Process-wise, we can talk through those options with council and have an ordinance prepared like you did with the ADU ordinance you intended to run, and then refer that to the Planning Commission, or we can work with Development Services staff and present something to the Planning Commission that they could bring back to City Council. That's everything I have on ADUs.
Pardon, so we would have something separate along the lines of what we're doing now for accessory structures that were not accessory dwelling units, and then we would have something separate for accessory dwelling units that would include these new provisions. So we could have accessory units that were not dwelling units that were closer, like a shed or something that were closer to the lot line, whereas the accessory dwelling would be following the same rules as the house.
Sure. We have an article of the code that governs accessory structures, and within that now it says in residential districts accessory structures cannot have facilities for eating, sleeping, and cooking. So we'll need to change that to make sure ADUs can be allowed. But
But then it
If-
seems like it needs to be then a separate, because we don't want the latitude that we give to other type of accessory structures to be given to the dwelling units because they're dwelling units similar to the house under this state provision. I would say.
sure, understood. And that is an option you'll have.
Something like that.
Any discussion, questions, follow up on that?
It'd be nice if over time we could get the legislature to consider the owner occupied provision or the owner occupied of the principal unit provision or some kind of design standards. I don't know what part of the city is under a historic district. Is that like South Park? What would be governed by some kind of design standards?
I do not think offhand that we have any historic district-specific design standards. We can certainly look and bring that back to
So
council.
that's just the downtown, maybe there's a historic district and that's it?
Well, we have historic districts, but I think
We don't
the
already
question,
have design
the question I'm
standards.
wondering about is whether we have any
Design standards.
design standards for those districts. I think not, although you potentially could implement those.
The only downtown, I think, has design standards.
No, I don't think so. At one point, there was a Main Street design standard that was incorporated into city code, and I think it's still incorporated into city code, but I have never been able to put my hands onto that. So if someone can produce that Main Street downtown design standard, I'd love to see it.
There was a design committee that was connected to our planning committee also, but I'm not sure what the standards would be. It was more like negotiation. Anyway, all right, here we stand.
So we can work on that at a staff level and circulate. to
The good
council.
news is that we got accessory dwelling units.
That's right.
Not quite how we want it. In a primitive fashion, yes.
I mean,
Any old
you
thing,
know,
we got Wild
that's-
West accessory
yeah.
dwelling units.
well,
I guess just for like the public's good, to explain what we're talking about, is that we had talked about for a long time allowing accessory dwelling units and relaxing regulations on accessory dwelling units. And that's to create more housing within the city. And basically, the easiest way to think about these places, that is not like a complicated word, like accessory dwelling unit, is like a mother-in-law suite, an apartment above a garage. We had some ideas as to how we would implement that, and we're working on legislation for it. And then the West Virginia legislature passed a bill that more or less superseded what we were trying to do, allowed them, as Mark said, which is a good thing. We wish we had more control over it, as we do many things. But that's the gist of what is going on.
they took away some of the guardrails that
Right.
we had written into our legislation,
Very
Yeah.
thoughtfully.
very thoughtfully, and with public input.
Well, and to fit each community. So if
Yeah.
a community has
Yeah.
problems with parking, then they might want to have regulated the parking. If they have problems with, having some kind of basic design standard, that would have been nice. Or if we would like to have some control over it by having the owner live there, which would just help monitor whoever's living in the accessory dwelling unit. It would be a nice way to start. You can always get more permissive, but it's a lot harder once you let all the floodgates
Well-
open, much harder to,
And when we're
Contracted
when we
and-
literally can't do anything about it.
well, now we can't, yeah. But once there's significant number of problems,
Yeah.
then there might be more regulation.
It would have been better, like a lot of things with the state legislature, if they allowed our community, trusted our communities, I guess, enough to like see what is right for them. Our town, Morgantown, is probably quite different than most cities in West Virginia. So unfortunate, but I guess
Here we are.
hopefully we'll see some more affordable units out of it. That's all we can hope for.
I'm sure we will.
Do we want to move on, or do we have any further discussion on this particular?
Well, what do we see is
What happens next?
up next on, with respect to affordable housing? What do we see as our next kind of actionable step? Any ideas?
Certainly, I think we can share, I think there's a couple of targeted approaches, and Ricky had presented some of the information last meeting. Very short, near term, 2 policy items that we have been working through, and one was the ADU. Another one is we have been talking about the concept of a density bonus. So if you are adding a certain number of units that are designated for affordable housing, you may be able to build taller than you typically have, or your ratio may be different. That is something that I think near term, those policies are something that can be executed rather quickly if that is something council still desires us to run down. There are some more midterm to long-term programs that require some additional research. I think as we got the community feedback, certainly the land trust came forward as an item that sparked a lot of interest. I would love us to look with the land reuse agency to see, is there a way to take that group that currently exists and talk to them about what that future of that program could look like. We've also identified several programs such as home renovation programs that we would need to seek some type of funding source in order to implement something like that. So certainly, and we still have, Ryan has an update on the non-conforming use, but we would open it for additional dialogue tonight if there's additional policies that we would like to make sure are on that list and slotted for review.
I believe there was some work being done toward a tiny home community.
Are you referring to the work done at Hazel's House of Hope? Yeah, so I believe that there is, they're seeking some grant funding.
We've identified a way to move forward that is permissible within the zoning. We know what the requirements for that would be, so now it's a matter
Wheels.
of.
I understand
Wheels.
wheels are the
Yes.
requirement.
These cannot be on a permanent, but
It's always
the
something.
ADUs must be on permanent. The tiny homes cannot be on permanent. But now it's a matter of our MCR has a grant writer that we are contracted with, and she's working on writing grants to a couple of different sources for that funding. They're not cheap. Tiny homes are expensive homes still.
And they would be some kind of transitional, like if someone had gainful employment and some other things, so it's sort of emergency housing, and then that would be some kind of transitional housing.
Yeah.
So we've got lots of opportunities if we have money to pay for those opportunities.
Yes, sir.
Right, but specifically, I think the work that we're doing in Lower Greenmont offers some opportunity for incentivization for some low-income housing. To, at least seek partners to build some quota of low-income housing into that, whatever gets developed down there. So I'd like to see that incorporated into, at least considered with respect to whatever community benefit, or whatever agreements emerge, prospectus emerge from that.
Has the land reuse agency started engaging anyone on what the potential could be in that area?
In terms of a developer?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think Ricky, Development Services, just provided a draft prospectus for review, so we made progress in that regard. Then, once the prospectus is finalized, then we would issue that, put that out, and start to look for interested developers.
Where does the non-conforming use ordinance stand?
So non-conforming use, the brief description background is City Council initiated a process to allow for revival of abandoned non-conforming uses to hopefully provide a kind of fast track to reuse existing structures. We drafted an ordinance and referred it to the Planning Commission for comprehensive plan concurrence. That format was an application with a recommended decision and then an option for either the applicant or council to take that proposed decision up and have it decided by council instead of by the staff recommendation. There have been comments from the Planning Commission and then variations of the ordinance brought back to City Council. Council's last discussion at its meeting was about whether instead of that being a City Council function, this should be a Board of Zoning Appeals function to take that kind of second pass review, and if so, whether City Council should be involved in that process at all by having the option to send the proposed decision to the BZA, or whether Council should not be involved. So there are a variety of options to do that. One is the original, could be a process with public input, a proposed staff decision that can then be decided by council. Another is just the BZA version without council involved, a proposed staff decision that can be sort of referred to the Board of Zoning Appeals for decision. There are also a couple different ways that other communities get to the same result through conditional use permits and Board of Zoning Appeals. So these are not things that council considered before, but they could be both a faster process and a process that follows an existing procedure under the zoning code. Would require ordinance amendments by council to do this. So kind of three options in the conditional use permit route. One is just that the Board of Zoning Appeals would be allowed to issue a conditional use permit for a discontinued use in an existing structure if they find that it's impractical to use the structure for a conforming use. Kind of a basic option. Another is that there could be exemption of certain non-conforming uses from termination by abandonment in certain districts. So you could say this is a place where we would want to allow non-conforming uses to be revived by obtaining a conditional use permit, and usually people do these with performance standards. So something about only certain types of businesses or limitations on the parking they provide or allow on street. Something designed to make it fit within the built environment and the uses in the neighborhood. Another version of that is allowing establishment of certain uses in structures built for that purpose by the code. So you have an old storefront that's now in a residential neighborhood. Somebody would be allowed to get a conditional use permit from the BCA to put a store in there, even if that's not allowed by the current zoning. These options kind of track with what council is pursuing in Greenmont already for the neighborhood businesses, and so it might be another way to promote your goals. That
Two birds, one stone.
Yes.
Yeah, those make sense
Okay.
to use existing, similar to when council has taken on other tasks that are more either administrative or that are done through some sort of specialized body that does that over and over again, are both good options.
And I think that's really what we've been dealing with. A lot of people come before the planning commission, they're like, what else am I supposed to use this building for? Am I just supposed to demo it? I'll spend the money to rehabilitate, renovate, but what else am I this was built as a 3-unit apartment building. Like, I can't turn it into single family. It's so cost prohibitive. So I'm fine with any of those.
Yeah, using it in the manner that it is
Yeah.
designed for.
Great. So we'll continue working on that and send it to the BZA.
Certainly, we can do that. There are a couple links collected that show some options of those. We can put something together for council and for the planning commission and circulate that.
Great.
In terms of community land trust, what I would encourage is for us to try to forge some partnerships with local municipalities, the county, to try to pool as much resources and land that maybe people don't want, which is hard to come by, together, and issue, develop a plan as to how we would like to see that executed and the goals that we'd like to see out of a community land trust. And then issue a request for proposals for people to take that on. Maybe that is our land reuse agency, maybe it's not. But that way, I think that we take the leadership in terms of showing whatever organization, this is what we want out of this, and this is how these things typically work and how we want ours to work in our community. And, we have this pool of resources to pull from should you, want to take that task on. I think that's the way I would advise going about that. I don't know if others might agree with that, but yeah.
I think it's a great idea. I think, the idea of taking a leadership role and, putting ourselves out there with an idea and seeking partners to do that. Who knows who may come forward with that might be interested and have the same kind of values that align and might be sitting on some property that they could be interested in making available, just that kind of thing. So I think that's a great idea, Brian.
Wow. Any further discussion on affordable housing? Did staff have anything else to present?
Thank you.
Would council be okay with a member of the community coming to speak on this? I am. Yeah, you want to come to the mic here?
Just a general.
Well, here, you can come up here just so people at home can hear you. I know it's intimidating sometimes, but go ahead.
So I actually just learned about the initiative a few hours ago. So pardon my ignorance here. I'm just wondering if upzoning is part of the affordable housing initiative, or whether considering upzoning is part of it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, and part of our comprehensive plan, and Ricky's certainly jump in, includes looking for areas to upzone. So I think long-term, as we look at different approaches throughout the community, that would be consistent with our plan going forward.
Oh, awesome. Thanks. I'll check that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, I look forward to our 18-month timeline on a little bit of zoning reform that would allow us to increase density in areas where it makes sense, because that's a huge hurdle for us.
For sure. Anything else?
Mind the parking. I know that parking is something that sometimes is overlooked on purpose because not everyone needs a car, but also where it's especially egregious, it would be smart to not have that be our first place to add density.
All right. So we'll move on to new business, and we're on the topic of fiscal sustainability. So first we have a staff presentation for the fiscal transparency dashboard.
And certainly as well, Director Ferguson's coming up, if I may tease in, since this is our first workshop, what we talked about. As future topics come forward, this can take, or is intended to take, a bunch of different shapes. We may have community stakeholder groups who come in for this portion. Staff may provide updates on certain items. That's certainly in no way restricting the discussion that will occur related to different policy items. These are just topics that may be timely or related to the overall topic to provide some context. So tonight we've identified something that we would like to show you related to a transparency dashboard that staff has been working internally on, as well as we know our health insurance fund has been an ongoing item. So we'd like to provide a brief update on those two items before we turn it over for open dialogue between council to identify policy items that we would like to dive into further. So, John, and I think this is in the Internet Explorer, should be able
Yes,
to pull up
please.
yes.
Perfect. John Ferguson, Finance Director. I have the privilege of introducing our new financial transparency portal. Now, a little bit of background. Transparency remains the core value for not only the city, but also for the finance department. So this is very, very near and dear here to myself and also to my team. We've put in a lot of work to this, and I'm very, very excited to present this to you. I'm an accountant. This kind of stuff excites me. So I do feel really, really good about this. First off, we want to make sure we are providing clear, timely, and accessible financial information. What does that do? That strengthens the public trust. That supports informed decision making. That reinforces accountability. That's what we are. Now, I know that, we're looking at a website now. We've gone through a couple different revisions of our transparency for the finance department over the past 5 years. Keep in mind, we are accountants. We're not IT people. So if this doesn't look, like the latest and greatest, our goal is to make sure it functions, it works, and it's something that is simple, that we can repeatedly make sure that it's updated, which right now, that's the hardest thing for us to do. And more importantly, that it's cost effective. Now, some background information. Number one, or I shouldn't say number one, but during the city's transition to our new ERP is Enterprise Resource Planning, AKA our accounting software. When we transitioned from our former software to our new software, we experienced some difficulties when it came to our transparency. Number one, it was first identified that our old system was able to communicate with what was called OpenGov. That was a vendor that we utilized for our transparency portal. Our former software was able to talk, if you will, communicate between our software and what was being presented to the public on an automatic daily basis. So if we made a change, or if let's say we recorded a payment for something, by midnight that night, it would be reflected on our website. That was great until we transitioned over to a new software. Our new software no longer has the capability of communicating automatically between the two different platforms. So that was number one. Number two, our new system also required a different format for our chart of accounts. What's that mean? Everyone's familiar with how our numbering system works for our chart of accounts. For example, general fund is 001. And then you got another 3 set of numbers, which is our department number. Then you got another 3 set of numbers, which is our object of expenditures. Make a long story short, our old formatting system used to use a combination of dots and dashes, where our new system requires only dashes. So when we came back to our former vendor, OpenGov, and said not only do we have a new ERP system, but now all of our accounts are different, just formatting. Everything was the same except we dropped off a dot and added a dash. They came back and said, well, that's great. We're going to have to do a change order, and the estimated cost was $43,000. One-time update for something that had been broken for almost 2 years. Now, from an accounting standpoint, that's not great. Our software, just for that portal, was averaging about $38,000. Matter of fact, I believe I have the exact dollar amount here in my narrative. On top of that $38,000, they wanted another $43,000 just for a one-time fix. That basically led us to seek alternatives. So we started looking in-house, and thankfully, we do have that expertise in-house within the city. Marvin Davis did a phenomenal job when it comes to this portal that I'm about to demonstrate for you. Make sure that he gets all the credit he deserves. It's phenomenal. It was beyond our expectations. And this is what we have here in front of you. This is my opportunity to show and to demonstrate what that looks like. And I hope you guys are going to be happy with it. I hope. So, before we start, let's answer a couple of the questions. First, how do you access it? So if you go to our website, there we go. So if you go to our website, which is morgantownwv.gov. Perfect. Now, on the top toolbar there, you see where it says government, departments, visitors. Hit departments for me, and then hit finance. No, I don't have a QR code only because I don't know how to generate one. So now, if you're at our page here on the the left-hand side, if you click where it says Transparency Center, and if you scroll down a little bit, we actually have two boxes here that you can click. Okay, these are actually what they call a URL embedded object. But the first one, this is our new Transparency Center. And the bottom one here, this is called our Transparency Checkbook. Now the Transparency Checkbook, just so that those who are unfamiliar with it, it's actually a system that the West Virginia State Auditor's Office provides to every local municipality at no cost to the municipality. It doesn't mean that it's free. We actually pay for it in a roundabout way. But when you click here, you can see for Morgantown, West Virginia, you can actually go back to fiscal year 2019 and it'll show you, and you can filter around. If you scroll down here on the left-hand side, you should be able to filter by vendor, you should be able to filter by fund or by category. This is pretty standard stuff. We have been updating this on a regular basis. This is not what I'm excited to show you. Okay, we've had this is free, it's okay, but what I really want to show you here, if you go back, go there. Just click that box. It'll bring it back to where she had it originally. But I just wanted to demonstrate here how that looks. Okay, and this is all live right now. So if you're on your phone, you can definitely go and do this. But what I want to do now is I want to give you an example. And just because it's the most, let's just call it what it is. Let's take a look at the finance department. Okay, very, very easy to do. So over here on the left-hand side, so you can see right now, currently we only have fiscal year 26, okay? We are in the process right now of wrapping up our audit for fiscal year 25. Once that is done and the audit report has been issued, we are going to upload the fiscal year 25 information as well. That way you're looking at last year's numbers, you can look at this year's numbers, and then we're going to have it so that it's going to continue to be updated on a monthly basis moving forward. Now, if you go down again, you can see where you can select a month. Now, right now, again, we are in fiscal year 26. So if you wanted to see all months, okay, you don't have to check anything. But if you wanted to see, for example, the month of February 2026, okay, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to select here where it says select an expenditure category. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down until I see General Fund and Finance Department. Right there. So once I do that, now you can see this is the summary page. So this will show you just in very big letters. And again, I'm a visual person, so when I asked Marvin, I said, we got to have it so that I can see it, and it's easy. So that's exactly what he delivered. So you can see right here, as an example, this is our summary page. Now on our summary page, this is going to give you here by fund, so you can see our general fund. But if I go over here to where it says expenditures, now remember, I selected the finance department. So you can see our total expenditures by month, okay, all the way across. Now, I don't know if this is there a way that I can zoom in or zoom out? Don't worry about it. So when we're taking a look here, oh, that's perfect. Do that one more time, please. Awesome. So what I wanted to focus on here, like for example, our expenditures for the month of January 2026 for just the finance department were $90,000 for the month. Now, if we were to look at the difference between January and February, you can see here that it actually jumped by about $50,000. Well, to me, that makes sense because I know that we paid a $46,000 invoice for our software renewal, which was effective beginning April 1st is when that renewed. So we paid it, and you can see, and that's what that difference is from the month of January to the month of February. Now, we have this in this format. Now, you don't have you don't have the ability to drill down and see how many paper clips we bought for office supplies, but it does give you a general idea how much the department spent by month for this fiscal year. And you can search for every single department. You can also search for every single fund that is under the umbrella of the city of Morgantown. Now, what we don't have is we don't have Bow Park. We don't have the Parking Authority. Those are separate entities. They have their own reporting. This is just for our reporting for the city of Morgantown. Does that make sense to everybody? So
Pardon, is there a way to include those?
there could, but it'd be more work on us that we'd have to get information from, let's say, for example, from Bow Park. We would have to find a way to download their financial information by month into a format that uploads into the GIS database.
We can rest on our laurels for a bit.
Oh, yeah. And remember, we're just accountants, we're not IT. So can it work? The answer is probably yes. Do we know how it works? The answer is no. But that means we can find out if we absolutely have to. But for now, what we have is that we are able to, or the public has the ability to then know by department, by fund, by month. If they didn't want to know by department, they just wanted to know by fund, we can certainly do that as well. Instead of selecting a category over here, I'm just going to reset it so that it's now all funds. Okay? And I want to go up here and I'm going to select just the general fund. So now for the general fund, you can see here, for example, the month of January 2026, we had a total of 11.5 million in expenditures. And in the month of February, we had 4.45 million in expenditures. So you can see it works by fund or by department. And I highly encourage you, everyone, to go and play around with it because it's, in my opinion, it's pretty cool. It does give you that ability. And now, going back, and the reason why we didn't include the ability to drill down even more into specific types of expenditures within that department is because we actually went back to the what was provided to council on the monthly financial reports. And the last monthly report that we were able to find that was issued to city council on a monthly basis was actually for June 2021. And that's exactly what they had. They had it, and it was just general fund. And you can see right here, the expenditures were by department only. So it started with mayor, council, city manager, finance, HR. The exact same information we're providing here, except we're doing it on a digital basis. Instead of having to hand you a piece of paper, you don't have to wait for us. You can just go online, and we got it. Does that make sense? Any questions that I can answer for you? I'm happy to answer anything you got on this, except how does it work? I can't do that. Yes, ma'am?
Is there a second stage to this, or this is a completed project?
This is a work in progress. So for example, let's say you do want to know, you want to have the ability to drill down and know exactly, how much office supplies the finance department spends in a month. We could certainly give you that functionality. It's just going to take up more data and not a whole lot more work because we're already generating the information anyways. If you want to see that level of detail, we can certainly provide it to you. It just depends on what you want.
Some things we want to know that you all know,
Oh, yeah.
and some things we want to keep track of to the tiny bits. So
As a matter of fact,
it's nice to be transparent, but sometimes there's sort of an overload of data, so.
exactly, and that's why we're trying
Yeah.
to keep it so compartmentalized by just department. Now, if you did want to know more detail within there, I mean, we can certainly provide it.
Or like, people might be interested in specific projects.
Yeah, we
And
can certainly do that as well.
working toward completion of a project or something like that, I don't know, but.
No, we can't give you the percentage of completion because as accountants, we don't know that. Engineers could certainly give you that. That's
Well, just
that
if you had a
information we
total
have in files.
project cost and then.
Yes. The other thing here that was not reported to city council before in the past on a monthly basis was the amount of cash on hand. Now, this isn't like cash, like there's cash in the safe or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. This is cash in the bank, either in our checking account or our money market accounts. So you can go over to where it says over here, down at the bottom where it says cash on hand, and you want to know what the cash on hand is for the general fund as of the end of February. Well, I can tell you because it's right here. So you can see, over here down in the bottom, this is what we started with, okay? This is incoming, this is outgoing, and this is where we landed at the end of February. Let me make sure I'm, yeah, it's still selected for February. So you can see, that's our checking account, that's our money market account, that is the sanitation escrow. We have multiple accounts in here. That's all of our cash on hand for the general fund. We can do the same thing with, if you wanted to know what's in capital escrow, okay? Or if you wanted to know what's in coal severance. So if we just pick coal severance, you can see right here, that isn't real great. Do I have to hit all months? Is that what it is?
Can you distinguish between obligated funds and funds that are not yet obligated?
We need for ARPA.
Like if there's a project, or if there's a, like funds that need to go toward a bond over the year. I don't know how,
we have
I don't
restricted.
even know how to describe that in your words.
Yeah, they're called restricted. So we do have restricted. Yes, we do have restricted cash. And restricted cash, we would be primarily talking about the airports, airport improvement grants fund. That's an actual checking account that is 100% specific to the FAA federal grants for the runway extension project.
Yeah,
that is restricted.
like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Thank you.
To provide just a summary closing on this one, it was a situation where staff was faced with data that wasn't being kept up to date because the system had provided some concerns with moving forward. There was a cost associated with it. So staff leaned in and said, what resources and tools do we already have that we can handle in-house in order to bring some additional transparency forward? I think this aligns with some of the things that we've been discussing, including having better information and better metrics and data to be able to work from and make decisions from. So I was pleased to see the work that staff has put into this. Thank you. And certainly something that we may continue to build upon, but was proud to see that next step go forward because I believe this transparency is an important step in making sure fiscal transparency is what aligns well with sustainability, in my opinion.
So what do you think? Good? No good?
I like the site. It's really easy to use. I like using the search bar. You can just type in anything you want, look up any piece of funding. It's super helpful. It's really great. It's impressive.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to appreciate having just a link to be able to send to constituents when they have questions or get skeptical or, you know, it's nice to have a link. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Gorgeous.
All right, good. So we're on to our next staff presentation for the health insurance fund.
Yes, don't go too far, John.
Good?
Yes.
All right, so let's move on to our health insurance. So just a brief overview of what the city has for our employees. The City of Morgantown has a self-funded health insurance plan. Now, this is different than, let's say, for example, what we normally think of with health insurance, like a commercial insurance. I'm going to use Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield as an example. Now, if we were on Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, what would end up happening, we would pay that company premiums, they would handle all the claims, and then at the end, if there was anything excess left over and beyond from what we paid them in premiums from what they dispersed in claims, they kept it, okay? But also because they are an insurance company, just the opposite is also correct too. If our claims are over and beyond how much we paid in premiums, they take that risk, okay? That's a risk to them. Now, in order for them to insure a business or an entity What they do is that they calculate how much risk they're willing to take and what the premium is for how much that is. Okay. Now, in our particular case, what ends up happening, instead of having commercial insurance, we are self-funded. So what that really means is that the city budgets a certain dollar amount per individual, and we have the choice of either the family plan or the single plan. We know exactly how much that is for the employer. We determine how much the employee contribution is. Those two pieces end up getting deposited into what's called our life and health fund, and then our life and health fund then is where we go and we pay for those claims. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so that self-funded health insurance plan, that's what provides our benefits to our employees. That provides the benefits to their families. That is, I would say, a very important piece of the total compensation plan that each one of our employees has working for the city of Morgantown. Very important piece. Now, under the self-funded health insurance model, the city assumes the financial responsibility for paying those healthcare claims. And we actually, we have a vendor, it's called a third-party administrator, that handles that for us. That company is called HNAS. Don't ask me what HNAS stands for, it's just HNAS. Health what?
Health Now Administrative.
Health Now Administrative Services, thank you. I only see it come through as BCI Holdings, Inc., because that's how the claims actually come out. That's the global name for the company. However, going back to my narrative, make sure I don't get off track. The company, or I should say the city, assumes that financial risk for paying the healthcare claims instead of paying fixed monthly premiums to an insurance carrier. This approach provides flexibility for us to design those benefits in such a way that would benefit not only the city financially, but also for our employees. And remember, that's an important piece of the important part of their compensation package. Now, over time, however, this can produce either cost efficiencies or we can run into risk. That risk is that we start paying claims over and beyond how much money we are contributing into it in the form of premiums. And that's basically where we started over a year ago, back in January, is all of a sudden it was the fund, we need to have a cash infusion in order to financially support the plan. So I know I'm getting off cycle here, but really what I want to do is that's where I want to start. So if you skip over here to page 2, where I start talking about the stabilization of the plan, back in January 2025, I did come to City Council requesting approval for a transfer from the Financial Stabilization Fund of $3.315 million in order to make sure that we shore up our employees' health insurance plan, our self-funded health insurance plan. And thankfully, City Council approved. Now, that also came with some requests, just to make sure that we were not going to continue to do these cash infusions on a regular, ongoing basis. So since that time, we have taken some corrective actions, and that's what I want to start on here if we're looking at page 3. What were our key actions taken in order to make sure that our health insurance plan is more financially stable? So the very first one that happened was that we had an establishment of the self-funded health insurance work group. That work group included members of council, it included members from Bow Park, and included members from the parking authority, and also from the HR department and finance. We met initially on was it every other week, every 2 weeks or a month? It was about that. Let's just say we met originally on a monthly basis. We had speakers come in from Health Now, HNAS. We had representatives from HNAS. We also had representatives from Assured Services. Assured Services is our insurance consultant. We can't say agent because we actually don't buy premiums from their company. They are a consultant to our plan. We also had Express Scripts and Keenan Associates. Those two companies deal with our pharmacy spend. So they are our pharmacy administrators. The goal of the work group was to identify and to discuss any cost savings initiatives. At first, again, we were meeting on a regular basis, but then after we did take some, I would say some fairly large changes in the plan. Not so much forward-facing changes, but in the background changes. Back in October, what we wanted to do then at that time was to give it time to actually work out and see if those changes actually bared fruit. Does that make sense? So, and we'll talk about those cost savings initiatives here in just a moment. Now, we are currently in a transition and data gathering phase. So I know we haven't met in a few months. Actually, it's probably been 4 months, I want to say.
At least.
Yeah, I know that the last time we met, I was actually in Charleston, so I know it was at least November. Now, we are in that transition data collecting phase. We're monitoring whether those implemented changes actually, we started seeing some cost-effective or cost reduction during this time. It's been 6 months, and now I believe we're ready to come back again as a group to discuss, did those changes work? Do we need to make any additional changes, and what's that going to look like? So that's where we are now. Again, the primary goal of this group was just to establish regular meetings to review and collect data, to evaluate any proposed cost-saving strategies as additional opportunities, and to make sure that we are achieving our desired financial impact with this plan. On to our implementation of the prescription cost savings initiatives. The very first one, this is the Express Script, what they call the Advanced Utilization Management Program. Now, this program, it's got a long title to it, but the idea behind it's quite simple. The idea behind it is to encourage providers, and when I say providers, I mean the healthcare providers, like your doctor, to actually implement a step therapy type program. So what that means, instead of automatically writing you a prescription for the latest and greatest commercial drug, when I say commercial drugs, those are the drugs we see on the commercials that are like $30,000 or $40,000 a pill or an injection. Instead of immediately writing you a script, that they would actually go through and do what they call step therapy. First, try a period of time doing this. If that doesn't work, try a period of time at another type of therapy until you eventually get to the place where you have found a type of therapy that actually treats your symptoms and gets you better, or they jump right into the more expensive options. But we don't want them to actually go immediately to those expensive options first. On top of that, it puts bumpers around providers on what they can prescribe. For example, if there is an alternative prescription that does exactly the same thing that this other one does, except it might cost 20 or 30% less, they're going to contact the provider and say, you wrote a script for this. Here are the symptoms. Here's the explanation of benefits. We believe that this other alternative prescription or medication, which does almost the exact same thing, if not better, but is cheaper, would you consider changing that prescription from this to this? So that behind the scenes, that's also designed to help us save money while also providing the care and the treatment that our employees that they need. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, when this cost savings program was pitched to us, and I say pitched, when they say that we should implement this and here's what we could reasonably expect for savings, they basically told us we could expect to see between $700,000 to $900,000 in savings per year. Now, have we, after 6 months of being implemented, have we actually seen that? Everyone's got this in front of you, right? You can turn, and I know I don't have it up on the screen, but I want you to turn to page 8, where you can see here, this right here shows you a graph. Don't worry about how small the numbers are. What I want you to is visually look at, and you can see over a trend, over a 5-year period, have this become less volatile? Has this become a smaller number? And the answer is no, we have not seen that yet. Now, that doesn't mean that the program hasn't worked. That just means that our costs, combined overall claims, continue to be extremely volatile. What that means is that we would like to see that level out. But currently what's happening is that our peaks and valleys, the difference between them continue to grow. We'll have an extremely high month, let's say for the month of, let's use the example here for the month of, let's use the month of February. Month of February, you can see we had total claims paid out. Cash went out of our bank of $1,080,000 compared to the previous month where it was $469,000. There's quite a variance in there from month to month. We would like to see that variance not only shrink, but we'd also like to see the overall number continue to trend down.
And that's not just pharmacy costs,
That's correct.
cost overall.
This is overall costs. That's correct.
The pharmacy costs, have they leveled off some under the new program?
That we can't determine yet, because all we see, at least from our end.
How long has that been going on?
That's been going on for 6 months. We did reach out to our consultant to ask for how much of a savings impact have we seen now that has been in effect for 6 months, and he's going to get back to us. When he does, I'm going to share that with their work group, and that's where we're going to start in our next meeting.
And this program came at a cost to us. The
correct.
$700,000 to $900,000 was costing us a little bit for that savings. And
That's correct.
was there any type of guarantee with that?
There is a guarantee for an amount of savings, so after a 1-year period of time, if we don't reach a specific amount of savings, they will rebate us back a portion of it. Also, they, I believe it's for, the first 3 months, that increase of what they call the cost of per member per month, that ended up being covered by the third-party administrator. When we originally went to this third-party administrator, they gave us think of it almost like an allowance that we could put towards programs like this. We were able to actually fund that for, if it was 3 or 4 months, whatever the number was. That amount did use up that original allowance from when we originally switched over to this provider back in 2002. And now for, I believe it was January 2006, our actual fixed fee now per month has actually increased by about between $12,000 and $15,000 a month. So there is a cost to this savings. And we were quoted, when they pitched us this savings, it was supposed to be between $700,000 and $900,000 in savings. Have we seen it yet? I have not. Does that mean that we haven't realized it and that they have stopped the increase from going much higher? That is a strong possibility. But from the data that we currently have, we cannot see that. That's why we reached out to.
We were pretty adamant with them. Sorry, I'm on
Yep.
the health insurance
Yeah,
committee. I've attended, I'm pretty sure, every meeting. And I've asked for others and
Yeah.
asked for updates when we weren't getting them.
Hey, I missed.
We were-
I missed. I was late 2 months. I was late.
It's fine. We were pretty adamant that we did not want employees and participants in the plan to have to jump through all these extra hoops if they were not sure that this was going to get us the savings that,
Yeah.
and it frustrates me to hear that maybe we're not seeing that.
Both of
Because we
us.
have made things more difficult on our members, which
Yeah.
we did not want to do.
Correct.
So it's not just, did we see the savings, should we cancel the program? Things have gotten more complicated.
Is there a resource, a spot employees can go for assistance navigating this?
Our HR department will help anybody through these issues, and certainly there's also direct lines that can be contacted through the agencies as well.
Thank you.
Well,
Look at that. Gorgeous, John, gorgeous.
I didn't do this. All the information that you could want, how to navigate it, the information, the numbers to call, they've all been provided to our employees, and that's part of our employee benefit guide.
Awesome, thank you.
But Betsy is also well trained in this and gets people the information that they need.
Perfect, thank you.
yeah, good work on pulling the data together. There's some good nuggets in there. Appreciate that. I guess what I'm struggling with is, and I think the memo pretty well explains it clearly, that we're seeing a lot of volatility in our costs, right?
Yes, sir.
We're not a high reserve, we're not a high reserve organization. We haven't seen the savings that we bought into. Why are we continuing in a self-funded model? That's fundamentally what I don't understand. When was the last time we did a make or buy decision, make or buy kind of consideration on our health insurance?
Well, that's actually something that we started talking about in our work group, was should we look at the opportunities out there at the market to actually go, so that we're not self-funded, to actually go to more of a commercial style insurance. Now, and a lot of people have thrown out like the PEIA. We're just not eligible to entering that anymore. That's not an option to us. But I'm going to go back to, let's say, for example, the Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Is that an option for us? Yes. Is that a more expensive option? Well, they're going to do exactly what insurance companies do. They're going to take a look at our history claims, or our claims history. They're going to go back either 3 or 5 years, and they're going to see, well, they've escalated significantly over the past 2.5 years. They're going to calculate that into their premium calculation. Plus, they're going to build in a buffer for the amount of risk that they are absorbing. And it's industry, the industry average is a 40% margin, is that what they would build in. So not only would we be paying as part of our premium for all of our claims on average over the past 3 to 5 years, but then we would pay an additional amount for that's already built into our premium for that margin, just for the insurance company to take on that risk. So it's an expensive option, yes, absolutely. The drawbacks on it, like you say, the drawbacks, number one, it's going to be a more expensive choice initially. There is going to be a margin built in that the insurance company is going to charge us that's going to be over and beyond our claims. The positive side to that, looking at it, is that if we end up paying, let's say the claims end up being less than the premiums that we pay, the insurance company takes that risk and we don't. We don't take that financial hit to our financial stabilization fund of $3.35 million.
Right.
That's what that really comes down to.
Right, right.
I think for me, it's part of ensuring we do our due diligence to consider other options. I think other things we need to look at and consider is plan design changes. We are mid-year, but now is the time to start talking about potential plan design changes. I think what we see is our claims and our utilization is very high right now. So to go to the commercial market, I anticipate will be high, and these things are cyclical. We are on maybe a 3 to 5 year high, and as a self-funded plan, you see the data and you see the trends that you're hoping that you're heading into. Normal trends would say we would be heading into a normal dip. We're not seeing that yet. So we have to make those plan design decisions. We have to do that due diligence. But it's kind of like timing any type of market decision. Do you get out of it right at the wrong time? And so I think that we'll have to get all of that data and consider that. How much longer do we wait?
Encourage us to not talk ourselves out of any options, yeah.
Right, absolutely.
So
We've seen, and certainly we don't look at, I want to preface by saying we don't look at anyone's personal medical data.
We do not.
But we can see that there are a few individual members on our plans that are resulting in a high portion of our cost, a high portion of our payouts. So it's kind of like,
And
how
there,
long
but the
will
grace-
that medical, right.
There with the grace of whatever, that could be.
And again,
Yes.
one of them is in eye medicine that is in, I have experienced eye conditions. I am not denying anyone any kind of, like, get what you need. But it's kind of like weighing the odds of how long is that likely to continue? Are we likely to experience someone else with that kind of medical need? Your predecessor, Councilor Hirschberger, was on our health insurance committee, so there may be an open council seat if no one else wants to participate and you just can't wait for another meeting.
The other thing is enlarging our pool. So seeing if there are other organizations that would like to help us spread the risk. The risk of that is if they're having more issues than we are, then we could make the whole situation worse.
I
So
have mentioned that in the past, and they kind of shut that down, like, oh, more
Yeah.
risk.
Yeah, well, less risk that you have control over.
Group plans are private funds, I mean, are private plans. Both options should be explored, as well as, I mean, like, you know, let's find the best plan, most utility, best price.
Yeah, there's a very fine line between making sure, there's a fine line making sure that it's the plan that we can afford versus the plan for our employees.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to, you know, when we were having our work group meetings. You know, this is what finance says, like, we need to make sure that we're exploring every avenue. We want to have the one that, we want to go to the cost saving as an initiative where we're actually going to save the most, get the best bang for our buck. And then you're going to have our HR director turn around and say, whoa, if we do that, everyone's going to quit. Here's what's going to end up happening. There's a fine line between that, because our health insurance plan is a very, very important part of our compensation package for all of our employees. All of our employees that are eligible for it, I should say. So,
Yes, thank you. I
Just-
think that's absolutely on point. So John's material has provided you a summary of some additional changes and modifications. We're happy to go into any of those tonight, but I know I want to be mindful of where we are on time for the rest of the workshop. Certainly, if you all would like to hear more, we can keep going. Otherwise, happy to sit down and kind of talk individually about some of those additional changes that have been made. But we wanted to come before you all tonight to show that there has been some very intentional decisions to try to get us in a better spot. We're not quite as far along on those as we'd like to see, so that health insurance group needs to we need to have some continued dialogue and look at some continued decisions. So that's what we wanted to bring for you all tonight as an update. Thank you, John.
thank you.
Right. So we will move to our main topic of discussion, council discussion and prioritization on key topics for exploration related to financial sustainability. Did you want to preface this, or do we want to?
Sure, Deputy Mayor, thank you. This is the portion of the workshop that's intended to be open dialogue amongst council with the goal and intent to identify high-level concept ideas, things that you all want to continue to work through. As a reminder, we would encourage that if we come up with a very large list, we have some dialogue related to prioritization with the hope of walking away with maybe 4 or 5, it may be different based on each topic, 4 or 5 solid topics that we really want to continue to run to ground and pay attention to. From here in the next month, there will be efforts related to public engagement on the topic. We will have an exploration session related to these items, and then we will come back to you all the following month after that to either whether there's been progress on ordinances, if they're small or simple changes, or if additional information, and have some additional dialogue with council based on what we've learned over the last 2 months on the topic. So would just open it up for council dialogue at this point.
Sure. All right. Want to start us
I'll
off?
start. Sure. So, and to appreciate the opportunity to have this kind of engagement and putting this, the workshop format together. As I started considering ideas around fiscal sustainability, kind of the first thing that jumped out at me was the municipal service fee. This was a fee that was implemented in 2016, passed the year before, went into effect 2016. Ryan can correct me at any point if I'm wrong about the history, but anyway, and since then, the city's costs and service demands and fiscal pressures have all changed, right? That's 10 years ago now, even though the fee has remained flat at the same level. So I have drafted, and Ryan's worked through some amendments on my draft, but I've drafted a amendments to the ordinance that would incorporate indexing into the municipal service fee. So basically it adjusts for inflation. So that we have our resources continue to adjust as costs adjust on the revenue side. Our roads need improvement. We were recently ranked worst in the state, and that's debatable, but, you never want to show up on the list, that list in that position. And this is one of the principal ways in which we pay for our roads. So I think if we're going to rely on a fee like this to maintain our infrastructure, then it makes sense to periodically review that fee and ensure that it's working and it's delivering the kind of service that we implemented it for. And I think that's really the thing for me, is that we implemented this fee for a reason. The previous council, way back when, took a big leap and moved this forward with the public. And because we all bought it, they all bought into supporting our infrastructure and supporting and providing a level of service associated with this that this fee justifies. And I think it's our responsibility to ensure that fee stays at a level that we can provide that same level of service. Otherwise, it just erodes confidence in us and our ability to deliver.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Would you keep the way that it is charged the same, like the same people that pay it now would continue paying? I read a lot about, it has to be users of the service that. Yeah, I did incorporate, and Ryan, do you want to field this one? I did incorporate some, I don't want to frame it incorrectly.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, as the mayor mentioned, these fees are authorized by state code. Council has discretion to reasonably classify users of services and then impose a reasonable fee for that service upon them. The existing service fee is used by several municipalities throughout the state, just a kind of weekly charge on everybody employed within the city. There have been discussions among Morgantown Council at various points about whether that fee properly classifies users with respect to their use for certain demographics, people who may drive less or have lower resources and so use less of these services. I know part of Councilor Downs' work on this has been looking at whether the fee as it is structured now is appropriate for people who work and live downtown, on the kind of inclination that they may travel less and therefore use less of those services that are funded by this fee. And so those are things in general that are within council's discretion. I did send council the kind of background and various historical cases on this where there can be you just have to make sure what you're doing with these fee ordinances kind of tracks how you've determined people use the service. The structure that exists, of course, is one that is the same as Charleston's fee that was upheld in a 2005 Supreme Court decision, so it's certainly fine. But those kind of decisions are supposed to be within the reasonable discretion of council about who are the users, as long as they're reasonable and the fee is reasonable for the service.
So what did they do in Charleston?
what we
The-
do.
Yes.
They what?
They do what we do.
Charleston and Morgantown's fees are the same.
So maybe the easiest way to do this would be to keep everything the same and just index it for inflation. And then anytime we deviate from that, there's a little bit of risk that it's seen as us doing our best to do something positive, but anyone who we're not helping might feel frustrated at exceptions for other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but we're able to, as part of the law, class people differently?
I would say as long as those classifications are based on the use of service.
Yeah.
So there's nothing explicitly that stands out that's like this in a fee structure I've seen in West Virginia municipalities. There are some kind of much older cases that say you cannot have a fee that is just a stand-in for a tax. So you can't have a fee under this section of state code that's just based on property value, because that's a property.
That's just tax.
But as long as what you do focuses on the cost of the service provided and who uses it, and it's reasonable, those things are supposed to be within the discretion of the governing body.
So you couldn't base it on income, for example?
Right, yeah, and the challenge to Charleston's fee when they implemented this in early 2000s was that it was a capitation tax, a tax on people in the city. And it was, the Supreme Court found that's not what it was. It was based on the people who were using the roads and the police services that were necessary to get them into and through the city. But anything that is kind of exactly like a tax that is charged would probably not be appropriate as a fee.
Is this a product of home rule?
No, this is, so Chapter 8, Article 13, Section 13 authorizes municipalities to impose fees for any special or essential services, and there's a list of them, and then any others. But this is so it's the same authority for the cities charging fire service fees or solid waste fees.
I have concerns. This is a highly unpopular fee as it stands. I think if we try to say people who live or work downtown, we're gonna get an influx of people who say, well, I take public transit, so I should be exempted as well. I'm also concerned that as soon as we say we're increasing the fee in any way, the legislature is going to take it away, because they have already tried that a few times. It's been introduced in a couple of legislative sessions recently that, we shouldn't have to pay user fees if we don't live in the city. So I personally have a lot of concerns that I would need to do some research on and try to look into further before moving anything forward, but certainly happy to hear how other people feel about it.
Well, I would index, and then I would just not do any changes, because as soon as we do that, like you said, it's gonna activate one group or another against it, and there's already a lot of people that are against it. We just have so few, our main problem is there's so few ways that cities can generate
Revenue.
funds, that even though this is not our favorite way, it is a way to diversify, and it is a way to generate funds. And so if we just indexed it, which makes every bit of good sense, and just left it alone, that would be the simplest, even though we all might prefer to look at it from an income standpoint,
Well, yeah.
which we
Be
can't
nice.
do. So it's like what you propose is logical, but I'm not sure it's practical.
At the very least, and again, understanding that this is one of the very few levers we can pull for revenue, generating revenue, if we index it, I would like to, and I've mentioned this, but I would like to look into reallocating the funds a bit. if we are increasing this unpopular fee, I would like to see the amount going to police go down and the amount going to streets and public works go up.
So
Is-
maybe just any increase would be allocated to streets and
No, I
public
think
works?
I'd like to see some options as far as restructuring in general.
Is there an upper limit on this fee?
I think the limit is that the amounts generated have to be reasonable in proportion to the cost of the service provided. So you know, it just depends on what the fee is allocated toward, but it would have to be it would have to be established in relation to the cost of providing police services and the cost of maintaining the public rights of way currently.
And that's the basis for using, generally, nationally published, generally accepted indexing metric like consumer price index and the universal average, because, it presumably applies to the cost of everything.
Yeah, that's what the other question I had was if you're going to tag it to inflation, what inflation metric are you?
Yeah, that's the one, CPIU.
CPI, yeah. Okay.
Do we know if any other cities or if there would be options to incentivize for employers to cover this?
When we instituted this, we asked for some employers, and they said they might consider it, and I don't know of any that have.
I think
but
some do.
Maybe someone will,
That I've heard anecdotally.
maybe somebody
Yeah.
will step forward and be the good example and let us know.
I know a number
We've
of
got
our
a
small
couple.
businesses downtown pay for this for their employees.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
good, he
heard it
doesn't pay
anecdotally,
mine.
not like formally. Just like, yeah, I do that. So,
That might be a way sort of around the downtown employee situation, the favoritism concern, if we,
Yeah, that's not a hill I'm gonna die on, right? I think it's more important to keep our revenue in line with costs so that our service levels aren't degraded. That's what this is really all about.
Mark, do you mind, I know you ran some numbers for me when I was asking about what the increase would look like. Do you have those? in
Yeah,
your
I mean,
budget?
if we went back to 2016, we're talking about 36, you accumulate.
It increased
Yeah,
every year.
if you increased CPIU back to 2016, it's 36.59 or something like that. 36% is approximately.
Another dollar.
Yeah, so it's $1.11 to be exact, is what we're talking about,
So you're
yeah.
proposing to catch up to that level?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what the ordinance update would do.
and make it retroactive to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's just-
and then it would adjust annually from there.
I would
Which
agree
would be smart.
with that.
So
That
it's a
makes
small increase at a time rather
Mhm.
than,
Yeah, we'll just keep up with inflation, presumably.
So theoretically, what are we bringing in now and what would that increase it to? 4 million?
I gave,
Sorry, my brain doesn't work.
3 to 4.
I'm like, usually I can
Is this
remember
4
numbers
million
really
what we
well,
did
but
bring in,
I'm a
or
little
what we would
distracted.
The 4.1 is what we currently bring
yeah,
in.
I think it was about 1.3 million is
Yeah,
what it
30%.
what it would generate.
30% is like 1 million.
Not nothing.
well, if we were going to look at the funding, I would like to make sure that we make sure that we're funding our roads at a decent level. So I think that's what people talk about the most.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have to have some funding for transportation.
Yeah, well, it stands to reason,
Yeah.
guys, that, I mean, you look, we've got 36% less funding to pay for our roads. that we did
That
10
we
years
10
ago.
years ago, yeah.
Right, it's nobody likes higher fees, nobody likes higher rates.
Well,
I mean,
and
that's the last thing I want to do.
Construction
But-
costs have gone up
but-
maybe
but-
a little bit more than
but at
the
same-
price of
But at
inflation.
the same time, we're, you know, a premier city in West Virginia with a premier university, and, you know, it's embarrassing to, you know, not
Who right
have
now
premier
willingly
roads.
pays the user fee. Their employees are not required to pay the user fee, right? WVU will fully charge us that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the city can require the employees to pay the fee as users of the service, but the collection mechanism for all of these types of fees is employer withholding for anybody who's an employee. And state agencies can't be compelled by the municipalities to do that withholding. WVU voluntarily does it. State agencies voluntarily do it in Charleston.
Did you give any consideration, just asking questions, instead of making it retroactive starting now and increasing yearly so that people don't experience such a high increase at once?
Yeah, but yeah, we could do that.
I mean,
But you know, it doesn't catch us up
Certainly not.
where we started, and, you know, while it would be less of a burden on folks, I don't think that this is a burden that's too great, and I think it comes along with a benefit, a real tangible benefit that in terms of what it delivers.
I think next month during the public input session, you'll probably hear a lot of people who say it is a burden.
Well, one thing
Now.
I already hear it all the time.
I hear it all the time too.
One thing I would, I guess, encourage us to do that we haven't done well with this fee in the past is like being very public and promoting what people are buying, what they're getting, what their money's paying for. I know we have like some signs, I think there's a sign like right out on the street, right up the road from me that says, "Pay for the," it's like this big.
Oh yeah, there's one
I've
on
seen
Ridgewood
those.
Avenue.
And like, I probably notice it because I'm like, cool, and then everybody else does not necessarily care about that. So it'd be good for us to make sure that we're cheerleading the fact that like, because I know, and I think Jenny probably would know better than anybody here, what that revenue generated was able to provide for when we first instituted it.
There were a lot more signs earlier on, I think,
I'm
and a
sure.
lot more promotion of it. And I think if we were to push for this to go more
People
toward
need to see what their
roads,
money-
and then we were to show like what roads we could do on top of what our regular paving list is with
Yeah.
that income
Yeah, for
The
generated.
sure.
problem is all the extra roads that were done 10 years ago and have the signs are now in bad condition.
Well,
Can't
not
say
all of them.
I'm just like, we're at the intended like turnover cycle almost, so those
Yes,
are
we
the
are.
older roads now.
So we were at like, I don't know if it was like a 100-year cycle or something. We were at a
Yeah, it
really
was really
long
bad.
cycle to get all of them paved. And the idea was to do something more toward 30 years or 20 years. And I don't think we've quite done exactly as much as we thought we would, but we have made it's made a huge difference. And every year, it's really compounded. And even though we may need to go back and start working on some of the roads that we did initially, I think it, compared to the couple $100,000 that we were paving
Working
every
with,
year, it's, you know, times 4 or whatever plus, so.
Mhm. Yeah.
We had the tiniest little paving budget, it was really sad.
Were you able to get those?
Yeah, and certainly, so Councilor Downs had asked a question this week about the amount that goes towards paving, and what does that mean for our paving plan? And Drew will probably kick me next time he sees me for oversimplifying it, because it is complex. Every road doesn't have to be done on a 10-year cycle. There's
Right.
different roads with different usages. So what we in our pavement condition index reports look for is, does our funding level keep us maintaining, or are we deteriorating faster, or are we closing the gap? And so that general data is estimated that it would require about $2 million a year to maintain kind of our where we are with the infrastructure. And certainly that means some roads get older and some roads get newer each year. But that's the level to just keep maintaining and not losing progress. So certainly in this upcoming budget year, and that is just paving, directly only related to paving. That is not included in this MSF fee. It includes funds related to the sidewalks and the curb ramps and all of those
Right.
other items that are incorporated into this fee. So currently that's at a level of $1.2 million. So we have made some great changes in the way we deploy our paving structure, where we have seen some benefits, being strategic about how we put it out, how we cluster activities. So we've made more progress, but certainly we would need additional funding in order to continue to make that progress. But we have done a lot in the last couple of years. The system has helped quite a bit.
And as you pointed out, early on, I mean, we're previously we've taken care of the low-hanging fruit, right, to some degree too. And what I mean by that is that if a road has, curb cuts that need to be incorporated, it's going to be more expensive. So we look for in that paving plan and prioritization where the biggest bang for the buck is. So some of the stuff that we really need to do is some of the more expensive stuff.
Well, the
more
rebuilds-
expensive work. Yeah,
The rebuilds
yeah.
are, when something has a problem underneath the roadway, the rebuilds are the most
Are
expensive.
you referring to Karen Lane?
Well,
I think beyond that, even the number of curb ramps that are associated on any line of street, similar to anything, once you improve it to a certain amount, new standards kick in. And so as you are bringing it up to any new standards that may be in place now that weren't in place when it was originally constructed, the cost of that escalates. So as we go to those roads who have more of those areas that are curb ramps, they just become a lot more expensive for us to do smaller sections of roads.
That's all I have on this one.
Okay. Any other topic we'd like to discuss in this financial sustainability?
I had put one of the other ones that looked at me in a risk of getting stabbed.
Just with a pen, not life-threatening.
One of the other ones that jumped out at me was Article 733, sales taxes, and the prescribed allocation of the city's 1% municipal sales tax. 25% goes to Bow Park, 25% goes to police and fire pension, 25% to CIP, and 25% discretionary. I'm not a big fan of set allocations, period. I think they limit organizational flexibility to manage evolving needs in kind of, when things are dynamic, fiscal conditions change, service demands, and community priorities evolve. So I had asked Ryan to look at what flexibility we have. We've got some obligations with how some of those funds have already been used, specifically bonding, and specifically with police and fire pension buy down. So I don't know if you've had a chance to get any of that feedback yet or not.
So the current allocations were made in 2022, and were made in part in connection with bond authorizing ordinance to fund what have now been the New Marilla Pool and the Lower Marilla Park improvements. Those bonds were issued as building commission lease revenue bonds. They're not direct pledge amounts against any portion of the special revenue fund that holds those sales tax proceeds, although that's the kind of reason to have a special revenue fund to begin with, that you you can issue those direct pledge bonds, and by direct pledge, I mean you would give the bondholder a claim against a particular city fund, so they could require that the first dollar up to whatever they're owed out of that fund comes to them to pay their bonded indebtedness. So the city has not done that. It doesn't have a specific obligation to pay money out of that special revenue fund to any bondholder. There was, I think, in the offering documents supporting those bonds, reference to a dedicated revenue stream with estimates based on historical averages. So if City Council wants to pursue a change in allocation, it's something that we could look at if there are potentially any disclosures required, but it's not a limitation on what City Council has authority to do with respect to the sales tax ordinance. With respect to paying the police and fire pension obligations, the city has made the switch to move new entrants into the state maintained plans, and as a part of that, based on the authorizing state law that enabled that, it has an obligation to pay down the existing pension obligations within the set year. The city is going to have to pay the actuarially determined amount each year to the current police and fire pensions, together with the percentage on each new entrance payment into the state plan, regardless of where that money comes from. So it also does not restrict what you might want to do with the sales tax ordinance itself. It doesn't say you have to leave that allocation at 25%. But the funding does have to be made for those pension obligations from
somewhere, but it doesn't change our obligation.
Does the 25% cover the obligation? The
Finance
actuarial-
director shook his head no.
I think
Not in a given year.
Not every
It
year.
gets closer every year.
But we are trending in a positive direction.
Right, we
We
should
are
be,
seeing
right.
results that we
Okay.
are helping eat down that
Carrying into the
obligation.
state plan, we should be, yeah.
Right.
I agree with you, Mark. I think that there's, that having this blanket obligation is probably misguided. I mean, we have budget issues we need to address, and this is also, are we capped out on this as well? 1%?
the sales tax is a maximum allowable amount of 1% under the home rule program.
Okay. But we could could we apply for another?
By state code, the maximum amount the home rule program can allow is
Okay.
1%.
All right.
So it would require a change in state legislation to make any change in that.
Which we
So
do
it will not
unless-
happen, I got you.
You better watch out, they tried to take away home rule this year.
Yeah. I got you.
So, part of the idea behind this, and the idea behind the fee that pays for the paving, is that people could see where their money was going, and in fact, it has gone to those places, and that whether we obligate it or not, those Boat Park bonds and the police and fire pension still needs to be paid, and that Boat Park allowed monies, and then as sales tax increases over time, it would help Boat Park to maintain. When we had our parks in a poor situation, one of the pools was 60 years old, and some of the other items were 40 years old, and everything was well past its life, and there was leaks and poor, all the playgrounds were in poor condition, and so this was, this bonding and also some pay-as-you-go funds were designed to get Bow Park back in place. And similarly, the police and fire pensions were in terrible situation. So by being kind of honest with where the money was going and actually allocating in that way, people knew where it was going. And they knew that half of the funds went to city uses, and the increases are going into city uses. And that includes, even though we didn't attach it to, for instance, renovations at City Hall and that bonding, and any other bonding that we choose to do, that this is part of the stream of payments. We have used that money in various ways around the city. So how it is right now has only been in place since 2022. I think it helps the confidence of taxpayers to see kind of where their money is going, similar to the user fee that shows where their money is going and what our priorities are. If our priorities have changed and we would like to express that in some way, I think we should feel free to do that. But this has been in place for 4 years, and it covered 2 of our biggest blind spots. And parks in a city that doesn't have very many schools within the city limits, those Bow Park properties that are in people's neighborhoods, and any Bow Park properties city properties that Bow Park manages that occur, any new parks that occur in different neighborhoods, help to stabilize the neighborhoods. It used to be that neighborhood schools did that, but now that we don't have neighborhood schools, some of our Bow Park properties used to be schools, or in, anyway, it is an important kind of like the face of the city for people who live in our neighborhoods and appreciate and need like a park to walk to. And having the playground equipment now in much better shape, it just makes a big difference in a city when you have your pensions taken care of, your park system taken care of, and then as we have more needs, figuring out ways to fund those. But I just would not change that at this point, because it's a stable, useful allocation that kind of sets some boundaries. So that's my view of one.
When sales tax was discussed, I think if you go back and watch those meetings I was attending, a lot of the public, and maybe me, I'm the public, I was at the time, I was advocating for a higher percentage of the sales tax, because when you look around in places like Bridgeport have the bridge complex, and everyone's like, why does Bridgeport get all the cool stuff? If Bridgeport can have it, why can't Morgantown have it? Because they dedicate the entirety of their sales tax to their park system, and that's why they're able to have nice things. And we're like, we've been scraping by for decades. I remember poor old Patrick Hathaway showing up in front of city council and begging for like $5,000 to repair a water line that was leaking at the pool because Bow Park didn't have it.
He also wanted bathrooms. Patrick
Well,
Hathaway wanted bathrooms.
That was a different begging.
Yes.
We're getting there too.
Yep,
But
absolutely.
yeah, I think that Bow Park has shown that we are good stewards of this money, and we have made a lot of major necessary improvements and moves towards better maintenance and better facility. I mean, we all want to talk about we need more public restrooms. Bow Park is building restrooms in Marilla Park. Bow Park is building restrooms in Krebs Park. Like, these things are happening, and it's not because the city is providing those things. Like, Bow Park is doing that and stepping up to the plate for the things that people are asking for, and I will never vote to take money away from them.
Is it a vote to take money away from them or to free up that? I mean, like, that's
It
the
doesn't
way.
free it up, it takes it away. Freeing up is a euphemism for taking away,
I mean,
if you want to look at it that way.
you could, I mean, but we allocate general funds how we choose to allocate them. Like, it's not like we're all of a sudden saying like, this means that Boat Park's getting less money. I mean, that's not like an immediate thing that happens by saying that this allocation's not
It's
going
an
there.
immediate thing that happens.
Not
It was-
necessarily.
Prior to.
You don't build a budget and then say like, all this revenue is now all of a sudden not there. You know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't, those two things are not the same.
Prior to being set by ordinance.
And framing it as that is, you know, I mean,
Even though
Is
the
framing it
intention was
accurately?
always
No.
25% to each of those 4 categories, prior to it being set by ordinance, that did not always happen. There were.
right, because you have different council priorities, right? So you could, like, or different administrative priorities as well for setting the
Community
budget, right?
priorities.
Yeah, and so like you could, but by putting that 25% imposition on it, then you guarantee it, right? And so you don't give a future council that latitude or yourselves that latitude.
But
But it
if
doesn't
you-
mean the latitude doesn't suddenly
But
evaporates just
once you-
because,
Once you
It's not there
bond,
anymore.
once you bond, what do? You just
well, I don't,
give back the stuff that you bonded?
well, I think Ryan had expressed that this doesn't like risk bond payments, right?
But you
So,
still need funds to pay for bonds.
Sure.
And you still need funds to pay.
again,
for
it's
the-
not like the funds disappear. I don't understand.
Well, if you have, say the column 25 cents, if you have 25 cents that goes to a boat park,
Mhm.
and then you stop giving that to boat park, that will tend to go a little bit somewhere else. If you have 25 cents that goes to police and fire pensions, and you decide that you're gonna, not make that by ordinance, and you're gonna erode it a little bit more, or you're
You
gonna
could.
erode the increase.
Or you
Well-
could even say 30% is going to Boat Park now. You know what I
Well,
mean?
if
Like
you'd
that
like
could,
to
that is
change
a
it in that direction, I don't think
25% is
That's-
still discretionary.
that's a thing that could happen. I mean,
Well,
so it's.
This
if-
was designed that it was gonna be
Sure.
50 cents, 50% to Boat Park and 50 cents to police and fire pensions, so that it would definitely take care of the
mean
pension
25
problem a
and
lot
25?
faster.
Oh, I
No,
see
it was
what
gonna
you're
be
saying.
half and half, and there
And
was not
then
gonna be any funds to anything else,
Some
because,
folks weaseled into it.
well, because the city has needs, and
Yeah.
this recognizes that the city has needs, and this increases, the 25% goes up for each of the people who are participating in this.
Yeah.
When the sales tax
Sure,
revenue goes up.
sure, I get
So
it.
I would rather work on something where we are keeping up with inflation and making sure that rather than arguing over slices of a pie, I would rather make sure that we are keeping up with inflation, which the sales tax already does. But I'm one of them.
Yeah, because it's a percentage, right? So it keeps up with inflation.
Right.
That's why it's
It's a useful
it's
tax.
doubled in terms of when it was implemented in 2020. I think it was originally, came in at about 5 million, and it's almost 11 now. So
But rather after 4 years to change the mix, when it would be nice to see the police and fire pension come to some fruition, and it would be nice to see
Yeah,
Boat Park complete the tasks that they've started
right,
before we.
right. But
undercut
if I get a paycheck, and I have a mortgage payment to make, just because I spend a little more money on, maybe I have to buy some more groceries, doesn't mean I'm not going to make my mortgage payment. I mean, right, the bills still
That's
still
right.
have to get paid, and the bills still will get paid.
Well,
It's
what
just,
Boat Park did
just
was
having it's just having the household discretion to spend our collective income the way that we best see fit.
What Boat Park did was bonded some of the funds and then adopted wanting to have some pay-as-you-go funds. And so then we would have maintenance and replacement and not get in such a bad situation in the future.
I am not thrilled with this conversation as we're talking about Boat Park taking on Flegel Reservoir Recreation Area and Lower Greenmont Park / Green Space Recreation Area and possibly Suncrest Primary Recreation Area. Like, we are pushing more and more, and now we're like, oh, but we're already giving them too much money. But it's no secret I was on the Bill Park board way before I was on council.
Well, I was on council before the Boat Park Board, and I've always been a supporter of parks, and it's because
and
it's
libraries
good,
are
it's
what-
I don't think any of us.
It's
I don't
good
think
for our
any of us-
community.
I don't think any of us are not a supporter of parks. That's not it.
Then show it.
Well, listen,
Anyway, this was a long time coming and very hard fought and very much a council initiative to make it like this. And this is a different council and you all can talk about it and think about it. But I would leave that alone because it's only 4 years old and let it come to fruition. And if you would like to change it in another 4 or 5 years, have at it, which I'm sure you probably will. I would leave it alone because.
We'll both be gone then.
I know. But I would leave it alone at this point and let it come to fruition.
If we weren't in the financial position we're in, I would agree. But again, our levers are limited, and I just want to advocate for the flexibility. Again, I don't see it as immediately taking money away from Bow Park. I see it as having. I see it as having.
I mean, you guys have agency
discretion.
in that too. It's like you're acting like, it's just like a foregone conclusion that you have no ability to adjust or advocate for or change when you are members of council.
Just to have the option to spend it on something
It's a
else.
strange way to frame it.
It's not strange because it was let go for so long.
I understand.
If it hadn't been let go, then there wouldn't be.
I have another idea to bring up.
Bow Park, we also can't ignore that Bow Park is in a very different position now than it was 4 years ago, even.
Because of this very specifically.
And I understand that, and maybe it's time to move things around a bit.
So is Bow Park in a bad financial position? I don't,
Boat Park is
No.
in the
the
middle of
$14 million budget,
Not
so
currently.
is it in a bad, I mean, that's just a legitimate
No, it's in a
question.
good financial position,
Okay.
but it's in a good financial position that they operate very tightly because they have a lot of construction projects going on, and so it's just really not the time to upset the cart.
But the city is not
Yeah.
in a good financial position. We're trending that way, thanks to staff.
Well, Boat Park has not particularly added a lot of employees or a lot of things besides focusing on this, upgrading all of their facilities, which was what we asked of it as a council, not as people who are on the board.
Well, we can continue to debate offline.
Yep.
Why don't we,
That's fine.
if it pleases the deputy mayor?
Sure, that's fine.
Why don't we move on to?
Do we have any other topics we want to bring up?
Yeah, so, one of the big areas, the big areas of opportunity, I think we have is compliance.
Compliance.
Compliance with
Paying taxes.
with paying taxes, fees, service charges. So, one of the ideas around fiscal sustainability I had, and Jamie and I've talked a good deal about this, is just building better compliance infrastructure, and I think it really starts with a study, a compliance study, looking at, okay, who's obligated to pay and who's paying, right? And making sure that we've got real accountability around that, because I highly suspect, when I went back and looked at the city budget, and over the last 10 years, it's adjusted for inflation, it's decreased, I've said this all the time, decreased 22%. It's not because I think there is 22% less business going on in the city. I mean, it may account for part of it, but I think that there is a compliance gap that accounts for a good deal of that. I'm just not sure that we've got good systems in place to capture that right now. So I'd advocate for us investing in some kind of compliance study to, understand that so that we can build a system to address it.
I'm sure the people who are paying would appreciate that.
They surely would.
Do you feel that's,
I do believe that
Necessary.
we have room for improvement on our revenue compliance. I think in a variety of structures and areas that would benefit from some additional audit work, look to see who is paying what, similar to what we're talking about. I think there's also some adjustments that we can make in our practices about when and how we reach out when non-payment is there. I think previously, we've talked about a threshold has been maybe put at $1,000 before any kind of notice is put out. If you back that up, do you see some voluntary compliance a little sooner than that? So I think we do absolutely have some areas I think we could explore for revenue compliance.
cool?
Sooner than that, but not to a ridiculous extent that we're spending more money getting compliance than what we're getting.
The juice has to be worth the
but-
squeeze, yes.
People can usually afford earlier than later. Once it's 1,000, it's hard for someone to afford then.
Yeah.
For sure.
A good example is fire fees. Fire fee work that staff had done and uncovered. What was it, about $750,000?
It was about 700,000 when we started to look at the adjustment of where those buckets of money of outstanding items are. If we adjusted when we send that notice, we could potentially capture, if everybody paid, an additional 700,000 of outstanding uncollected revenue.
Just one revenue source. Imagine what's out there.
Yeah.
Registering
And staff is
worth
already
registering rentals.
working on that process, registering rentals, absolutely.
Sounds great.
I reported an unregistered rental this week.
Have any other discussion on that one?
I think everyone would agree with that one.
You like that segue?
It was wise.
That's what Mark read.
They have a name for that.
I have one thing I wanted to ask about real quickly now that I have the ability to ask in more depth about it. Is our franchise fee currently capped with Comcast right now?
Cable franchise fees are allowed to be a maximum of 5% of customer receipts. Those are the only franchise fees that are structured. Cities are the local franchising authorities under the Federal Cable Act, so they have the authority to charge up to a 5% fee on cable services. Other franchise fees are discretionary. The city generally charges a linear footage fee for some telecoms that have franchises in the city, and then the city does not have franchise agreements with some of the other legacy utilities.
Which ones do we not have?
City does not have franchise agreements with with electric utilities, with gas utilities, and with the incumbent telecom operator, Frontier.
Okay. Yeah, Frontier doesn't offer video service.
A lot of most telecoms now offer
Some
over-the-top services,
Yeah.
but they do not treat them as cable services for purposes of needing to obtain a cable franchise agreement.
Interesting.
I think there has been some disputes and litigation about that in other parts of the country, but it hasn't been pursued here.
It's like you get Netflix for free and, yeah.
Right. Those are the over-the-top services and you don't pay that 5% franchise fee on those.
Breezeline, do we?
Breezeline has a cable franchise. Yes.
And we charge a franchise fee there?
Yes, 5%.
5%. Do we have any ability to leverage any other fees with them, specifically on video service?
So the question, whether we can charge fees on the video service receipts of those providers?
Yeah.
We can explore that.
Okay.
I have looked at it in years past. It's been a while, so I don't know offhand. There are Federal Communications Commission regulations about what and how you can provide access to the public rights of ways for those telecoms, and generally you have to provide non-discriminatory access on generally equal terms, but whether those services can be subject to a fee under a master license agreement or a franchise agreement, maybe.
And those, Comcast is like up in 2031 or something, right?
I'll have to check on those.
I just didn't know, and I don't know how long Breeze Line is, because that was while I was on council that we did that. Was it a 10-year?
I think we signed a 10-year franchise agreement with Breeze Line when that was signed, probably 2023.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. Okay.
Same subject. I appreciate the fact, whether we have a franchise agreement or not, that we're working with the electric utility on things like
Pole attach.
changing of light bulbs, improving of light bulbs to LED. The fact that we have for a gazillion years had 2 telephone poles up and down and blocking people's sight lines from neighborhood streets, and those seem to be being taken care of, and I know that probably just didn't happen magically, so I appreciate all the work that's been done by the city to work with people, whether we have a franchise agreement or not. And obviously, it would be really nice to have an agreement in place so that we could operate from some kind of agreed upon playing field. So, yeah.
If I may take a quick opportunity just to give a shout out to staff, Counselor Celine, thank you
Yes.
for bringing that up, because I do want to give kudos to Damien and his engineering team, who, particularly Ted and the engineering team, went around and did some site spot visits of some of the pole issues in our community and reported 117 deficient locations, worked with our GIS team to put those on a map to easily say, here's our problem areas, and we took a shotgun approach to multiple utilities, impact multiple utility lines, and they did report as of last week they had addressed 83 of those locations, and I know we continue to see them out there doing work, so it's not done, and it may
That's
continue
great.
in pieces and parts, but the staff taking that initiative to go out and get our arms wrapped around what the issue is and then proceeding to pursue that problem. We've seen benefit from that today.
So since our topic is sustainability, that is key, whether it's something that we get money from or not, we're getting benefit from, and it's huge to keep that under control because it's such a long-standing issue, and so many requests have been made over time that apparently it's helpful to get them on a map so that somebody can look at them one at a time, because it has been such a huge problem and really a bad sightline problem, so.
They're doing
Plus it just
University
looks
Avenue
tacky.
today.
Pardon?
They were doing University Avenue today.
Yeah, University Avenue was
Yeah.
one of the worst.
Yeah, they have like 5 in a row, double poles, so half and
great.
half.
All right.
So, thank you.
Would someone like to read us into executive session then?
No, just, can I?
Nope, oh, go ahead.
Just one last thing I want to bring up on the fiscal sustainability topic, because Todd raised, several ideas on the revenue side, but, I don't think a conversation around fiscal sustainability really stops there. I think we need to look at the cost side. I think, Jamie, that's that would lean on you for that, and I know you're looking at performance and service levels and key performance indexes and all of those things, but that's clearly where this goes. This needs to go next. So, if we're going to ask the public to support fiscal sustainability measures, we need to be equally willing to examine our costs, the cost side of the ledger, and with the same degree of seriousness.
Yeah.
I guess in the same vein, I just wanted to mention, appreciate the fact that we're doing some community granting with the Mosaic program, and the people who worked on that. And I know that at one point, Deputy Mayor Butcher was talking about community budgeting and and that might be something that we look at when we're having our public portion, is just having people suggest where they'd like to see, maybe show a split of what the budget looks like, and see if people have comments or suggestions for how they'd like to see our split go. I prefer that we're not be attacking or doing something to any single group, but that somehow we be just having people promote what they would like to see, and what positive benefit it would have for the community. And in the future, when we're on slightly more solid footing, maybe having a portion of our budget that we have a community group of 25 or whatever, look at and make some suggestions. And it could be like a small portion of the budget that had some community-led aspect to it. And then the other thing is as we're looking at budgets, and this is something that our staff knows as well, pardon, or bless you, that our staff knows better than we do, is just being mindful when we're looking at expenses as a council and as a staff and administration, looking at items that are continuing expenses and expenses that go up over time versus one-time monies, and trying to have, when we're looking at different streams of income, trying to kind of separate those out, because the continuing expenses, so salaries, very important, maintenance, very important, but those items tend to go up over time, and we need to plan for that. And then the one-time monies, we still need to make sure that we have the ability to have those one-time monies available. And I know that we, do that through our capital monies, and that sometimes the incoming monies from that kind of go up and down, depending upon B&O. So just how we can look at that and keep our city, all of it, whole. So anyway, appreciate it. Thank you.
I move that pursuant to West Virginia State Code, Section 6-9A4B2A, we enter executive session to discuss matters relating to appointment and related matters of public officers or employees, particularly members of city boards and commissions. And that pursuant to West Virginia State Code 6-9A4B12, we discuss pending or potential litigation.
Second.
We're adjourned.
Let's do it.